Welcome to the CFL Outsider, a short series of totally impartial hot takes, odd takes, and generally unconventional opinions on the CFL and Canadian football, with your host and presenter, Old Man Shouting at Clouds.
Hey kids, welcome back to another episode of the CFL Outsider. I remain your totally baffled, 100% befuddled host and presenter, Old Man Shouting at Clouds. We're going to try and do this a little differently this week, or I'm going to try and do this a little bit differently this week. You don't really have any control, you can just watch. But try and make it a little more coherent. So start out with sort of one main thought on the CFL in general. Then I'll go through maybe the thoughts that occurred to me during the games themselves. And then I might finish off with a couple other observations and stuff. First thing that I've noticed this year is that maybe it's every year, and I haven't noticed it before, but man, anybody associated with the CFL, any announcers, color people, commentators, anybody doing any sort of interviews on them, all trying to pump up the QBs in the league. And I know we've had a few years of, well, mostly less than spectacular QBing. And that's unfortunate, but you can sort of see where it's coming from with the way the game has evolved down south of the border and stuff. And we're still finding people. We do still have good QBs here. So let's celebrate the people we have that are good and not try and make the average ones seem better than they are. I've noticed this in particular with both Jake Maier in Calgary and Bo Levi. Everybody's, Bo is back to his former form. He's going to be tearing up the league, and look at how efficient Jake Maier is, and he's completing so many of his passes and that. Yeah, they are. But they're not, Maier is basically a game manager. He's not going to go out and win games for you. And Bo he's got a lot of what was there. He's got some good throws and he makes some good decisions, but he also makes some bad decisions. And sometimes the throws just aren't there. And I kind of wonder if maybe there's something that goes back to that shoulder injury from 3 or 4 years ago that just has never quite got right, and that sometimes in a certain throws something just clicks or gets out of place and it gives them the lack of accuracy. I'll talk about more about that, within the games, but that's it. I guess what I'm saying is, if you had to pick a CFL quarterback right now where you are, say, down by 10 points, 4 minutes left in the game, how many do you have that you're confident are going to do better than 50%? Better than, that actually have a very good chance of making a couple of winning drives and winning that game for you? There's not many. There's really not. Jake, like I said, Jake Maier isn't going to win games for you. MBT up in Edmonton needs a system, and he doesn't have it, so he's not going to be there. Zach, last year, sure, but this year, I don't know. And then you get to Ottawa with Drew Brown and Toronto with Cameron Dukes. We haven't seen them long enough to know. Like I said, Bo, I just don't think what I've seen of him, he doesn't have that in him anymore. So really it comes down to, we've got Vernon Adams out in BC, Cody Fajardo in Montreal, and Trevor Harris with the Riders. Those are really the only 3 quarterbacks that you can count on to perform at that level right now. Now, again, that's not necessarily a criticism. It's part of the chaos. Look at the chaos in the league right now. Nobody knows what's going to happen. So that's a good thing. But let's admit it. Let's say the league is great, but we do need to find us a few more good quarterbacks, ones that are not just holding teams in the games, but actually can win them for them. That's kind of my rant for today. So on to the games. We started Thursday with Winnipeg at Ottawa. WTF? I don't know what's going on with Winnipeg. First game, I picked against them. in the first week because I was pretty sure Montreal could beat them in the pick'em. In the second one, I just couldn't go against them again. Ottawa had too many unknowns, and Winnipeg had to bounce back, didn't they? But they didn't. They didn't even come close. So I'm befuddled and don't know what to do. So that's the one that put me at 3-1 for the pick'em this week. But on the game, what occurred to me? Well, it surprised the hell out of me. I didn't take Armstead as a running back. I was looking in my fantasy. I thought, well, might be a value option, but I thought, no, it's Ottawa, and it's Tommy Condell, so I didn't. And then Tommy Condell, apparently someone has told him in the offseason that there's a running back position and he can use it in his offense. Because what did Armstead go off for? A chunk. I don't even know the total, but it was something else. And also this game, couple of things, not directly to this game, but kind of just reminded me of it. First of all is just the receiver position. When you look on a depth chart, don't pay too much attention to receiver positions because every team is scattering them around so far now. It doesn't matter where you're put on the chart. You can line up anywhere. It makes it a little harder sometimes picking the receivers in fantasy, but something that's worth noting. And then there was also some talk in this game about NFL and CFL and which was better and how people compare them. And I never get that because yes, there's similarities between the games and a lot of the skills transfer, but the rules are a lot different too. And it's not apples to apples. It's apples to oranges. To me, it's basically like trying to compare Major League Baseball to cricket. Yeah, the skills are transferable and they both use a bat and they have to hit the ball and throw the ball and catch the ball. Yeah, but they're not, you can't compare them. And that, to me, is NFL and CFL. So let's just stop with that. They've got a good game down south of the border. Not as exciting as ours, I don't believe, but, it's not bad. And give them their due, and let's enjoy that we've got what we've got here. Because, again, haven't looked at the actual numbers to be sure, but I'm fairly sure that at least 6 of the 8 games that have been played have been in contention, under one score with a minute to go. So... yeah. Takes us on. I guess that was really all I thought about on that. And then we went to the next night, and it was Friday, which was Montreal at Edmonton. And I really thought that the Alouettes would probably manhandle the Elk pretty good. And the Elk stayed in the game. And they made a game of it, so to their credit, that's a good thing. We'll talk more on that as I go along a bit here. But... again, some of the things that occurred to me. If you're ever thinking about becoming a coach, coaching, minor football, I've done it. And it is a fantastic thing to do. It is so rewarding. If you understand the game well enough and you understand coaching, and it's about teaching the players to become better people more rather than just better football players, it's hugely rewarding. But there's also a cost, and it occurred to me just as an example. End of that first half, when Fletcher had this little screen pass that went, 30, 40 yards. Fantastic move on to get around the blocking area and get clear, and then beats it to the end zone with speed. Everybody's going crazy. I'm going crazy. But there's part of me, that coaching part in the background, that goes, yeah, but when he was running in, he had the ball in his inside arm where it's vulnerable. He didn't switch it over. Yeah, coaches are you're never happy. Not completely. I will say this, though. Glenn Suter, in doing the color in that game, had one of the best succinct football CFL lines I ever heard. It was to do with I think it was a third down run or something like that, and how it was ending out. And his quote was, sorry, let me make sure I get this right. His quote was, "All that matters is where the official puts his foot." And I thought, yeah, that sums up our game pretty much. And also some of the chaos that happens in officiating where it's not quite right. But it is going to be a long year in Elkville. I can say that based on this game. I mean, again, they're finding new ways to lose. And I was sitting there talking to the goddess was we were watching the game, and I said to her, I don't get it. The Elks look like they have the talent. They should be able to come and win some of these games, and they're just, people are feasting on them. And she told me, well, of course they are. Elk is good eating. And I thought, you're right. She was definitely right. Maybe they need another new name. Not back to the old one, but something a little more aggressive than an elk. Don't know. There's not a lot of E's left out there. Good luck with it, but we'll see. Definitely going to be a long year, though. Because, again, MBT, you see him there. He's in the system. He'll get some yards. And especially if they get behind and defenses start playing soft. When in Toronto, that's where most of his stats came from. He did good in fantasy in garbage time because they'd get behind and other teams would let him throw. But he's not consistent, and he can't take you to a win when you need that on his shoulders. So, we're going to see that whether or not how long he stays in there, how long till the fans push for Trey. Does Chris Jones make it past their bye week? I think he will, because it's just the money's involved. But maybe somebody else is doing it, and maybe they change things up. We'll have to see. It's hard to say. Again, Macbeth MBT said in the post-game interview, they will overcome this. We've got a Ferrari here, is what he said. And I thought, yeah, maybe you do, and that might be a problem. Maybe you're not qualified to drive it. It's that you get in behind the wheel of a Ferrari without knowing what you're doing, and you can end up in some serious trouble. And that could be what's going on in Edmonton. Possible. And then my last thought on the game was that onside kick that Edmonton managed to get back in the game and tried with like 30 seconds left, 40 seconds left or whatever. I'm so sorry they didn't recover that. I mean, they deserved to, just because it was so well done. I've never seen an onside like that. And it did leave me wondering, how does Boris Beattie manage to kick as well as he does when apparently the bones in his legs are made of rubber? If you saw the close-up, I didn't think a leg could do that. Okay, so let's talk next one now. Calgary and BC on the Saturday. Yes, Saturday with 50 Cent there. Oh, I'm doing it now. 50 Cent. Don't do 50. First thing that's becoming really obvious this year. Coach Dickinson, Dave Dickinson, hell of a coach. He will squeeze every iota of potential out of a team and do the very best he can. And, it is a shame that they've kind of slid down the talent down the talent ladder as much as they have, because they do get good coaching. But they need something more. There's just, like I said, there's something there. Maybe a first start is getting out of those jerseys that they wear, because, I don't know how long they've been wearing the things that are sort of a cross between a barber pole and a candy striper outfit and that. I don't know how long they've been wearing them, but they might coincide with this sort of slide to the bottom they got going on, because it's hard to go out and play for professional football when you're dressed from something out of Willy Wonka. Let's see, what else did I have there on it? I do think, though, Coach Dickinson is maybe getting a little frustrated with the things that the old thing, control what you can, things he can't control. Why do I say that? Well, that challenge, he challenged a completed pass, and it was incompleted, and he saw it. He was right on the sidelines. He saw right there. He knew that was incomplete, and he tossed the flag out, challenge flag, right away. But my point is, he didn't take the time to see. He knew he'd seen it and that it shouldn't be called complete. But did the video show that? Could have cost him a challenge that he didn't. If just it was blocked from every angle. That has happened. And as well, if he'd waited a little while until they were at least sort of lining up and looking like they were ready to get going with the ball, he would have given the command center a chance to jump in, because they do that a lot, and saved having to throw the challenge flag. Still would have had himself 2 challenges. Worked out okay for him in the end. I mean, he didn't need the second challenge, although the team game didn't work out so well for him. But still, that to me just speaks of some frustration. That that's not. He's usually calmer than that. And now, speaking of the command center, maybe the reason that he didn't wait is because I'm getting a little questions about them this year. I mean, again, we're still seeing in-game those shots of them that tells me nothing. But I heard specifically that they were supposed to be looking for no yards penalties and helping out on that this year because they get missed and coaches shouldn't have to challenge that. And that I stopped looking closely after the first 2 punts of the game, but there was no yards on both of them, both sides. 0-2 for the refs calling them, 0-2 for the command center. So, I don't know. Be better. They did, Calgary did come out blitzing hard, which was fairly predictable because what Toronto did to BC the week before. And Calgary, I figured they'd same game plan, and it was working fairly well. I was questioning a little bit just how good they would do, and all it really took was that one little sort of scramble run where Vernon somehow avoided the DN coming in and got himself, what was it, might have been 11, might have been 20 yards, but it broke the blitz package. And frankly, from there on, Calgary just backed off on it a lot, and when they were bringing it, it wasn't near as successful. So, a lesson learned, I guess. I do have to ask, though, too, because that old line in BC, I mean, they held it together and they got picked up and started picking up the blitzes, but it's not good. It's just, everyone's talking about the left guard. I think Perkins at right tackle is just basically playing like a turnstile as well. And I don't know. My fear is 2024 is for Vernon Adams is going to be like 2021 was for Mike Riley, just running for his life and beat to death, and then staying in and playing and everything, but just you can't take those hits, and I'm afraid that that's what we might have Vernon doing, and then very shortly, if that keeps up, then maybe he's out for a while, and any length of time, they go sliding real quick. Oh, did anyone else catch? I enjoyed this just for the optimism of it all. When BC got their first touchdown, they're kicking the extra point, it gets partially blocked, it bounces, it rolls around, it dribbles, it ends up somehow in the end zone, and okay, so no point. But as they cut to from the play to the commercial, they cut to a crowd camera that was way up back behind showing the length of the field. And I don't know if I was the only one noticed, but there was one very optimistic fan that saw the ball ending up in the end zone like that and was going, "Safety!" Could have been one of the ones that went in there for the 50 Cent concert and just doesn't know the rules all that well. But hey, you gotta like that they were there. And I've heard a lot of complaints actually this week about the fact that 50 Cent was there, and there were people just there to watch 50 Cent. They weren't really football fans. You can't count that as an opening day attendance. Well, it looked like an awful lot of them stayed around, and if they didn't, that's their problem. You can order the full meal deal if you want and only eat the fries, but why would you? Because the ones that left missed a fairly good football game. BC's got to get more consistent. They're still counting too much on being able to pull out the long plays and not really build up the consistent drives, which I think is going to hurt them in the long run. But still, it was a hell of a game. And so if you left just because of that, then you gave up half of your entertainment dollar. Let's see, what else do we have here? Oh, the tackling. And this is maybe why BC is hit and miss. I do not know about their defense. They've lost a lot of people. Their defense seems like their coverage skills aren't bad, but frankly, their tackling. There was one, and I'm sure there were a lot more, but just one that I noticed where B.J. Emmons, isn't it? Yeah, with Calgary. I think it's B.J. Anyway, Emmons with Calgary, the running back, took a run off to the left there, and you'd say broke 4 tackles, but he really, all he did was just keep running and letting people bounce off him. There was not a wrap-up at any point through any of those 4. The last one managed to somehow shove him out of bounds, but just wrap up and make a tackle. You gave up an extra 15 yards, and stop at DB. Stop going for this big hit thing. Just make a solid hit and wrap up. I mean, if you look at in the Edmonton Montreal game the other night, Purifoy came in with that big hit on it, but he was also prepared to wrap if he needed to on there. So learn from it. Learn from it. Use it. Keep the basics going. See, what else do we have here? Oh, Deontay Demery, is that how you say for the left tackle for the Calgary? He took himself a illegal procedure penalty, and then the camera caught him in the huddle when he should be listening to the play, actually looking at the camera and mugging for it, making faces at it and that. I don't know about their staff. If I was a coach, see a player doing like that in that situation, and after he just messed up, I'd probably have a point or two to say to him. Oh, and speaking of points, fantasy question for y'all. Do all of us get points for both the pass and the reception on the one that Vernon completed to himself? I mean, it's not big, but there's a few yards there, and it's a reception. That counts for something. Did anyone else also notice just there was, again, one of those things in the middle, running play was run over, stand back got up, reached down to help Suk Chung up at 315 pounds, and it looked like Standback almost gave himself a hernia. He was not quite prepared for how much weight he was hauling up. What else did I have? Oh, Zach Williams. I think he's the center for Calgary. Did you see that grill he's got? I know back in the day when you have kickers or sometimes quarterbacks with one down here, that made no sense. But, eligible positions or DBs, stuff like that. Yeah, the two here and then your center crossbeat works. For a lineman, 3 or 4. Williams had 6, 7, something like that. It looks like Jill by, I can't even say it straight, George. Grill by Gillette. They've gone from one blade on their razors up to 37. Maybe this is the point. Maybe eventually they're just going to mold it all into one, and it'll look like a motorcycle helmet rather than a grill. It's a change. I'm not always against change, but I just don't understand why you need that. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh, they ran an ad. Did anyone else catch this TimberTech ad during that game? I only mention it because it was a couple. What were their names there? Oh, Mike and Lori. We are Mike and Lori, and they talked about how great TimberTech did on their job. Anyone else get sort of a Stepford vibe from that? They did not seem like real people. Kind of uncanny valley, something going on there. And I guess that's just about it. About all that I got to say on that one. Other than, don't forget, like I said, Mara's doing good. He's a good game manager. I don't know why no one's using that term with him. He is a good game manager, but he's not going to win you games. So they're going to have to either improve on the D so that they can shut teams down more, or frankly, I don't know what they'll do. I'm not sure Schultz would be that much better. But I will say, though, going into the Sunday night game, Riders at Tiger Cats, it's just a damn shame this league is so boring. Christ. What a game. What a game. Couple of things I thought of. Early on, they ran I suppose it's a screen, but I think Scott Milanovic has a different definition of a screen than me. I always thought the idea was to, get some of the linemen out upfield a little bit, leak the running back behind them, let them block for him. He seems to run it backwards to that. He lets the lineman leak out and the running back go past them downfield and catches the pass. I'm not sure. Didn't work well. So, yeah. But hey, I'm not the one designing their offense. He can do what he wants. I did think it was fairly obvious that Sales at the DB position I think they had him playing field corner for Riders, was in there a week too early. He looks like he's got fairly good talent. In BC, he seemed to know what he was doing, but the two big breaks in the game might not have been on him, but he was awful close to them on the field where they gave up 2 really bad touchdowns. And just in general, he looked to me like he was playing slow and having to think about what he was doing. When there was anything instinctual, something to just come up like him run support, he was playing fast and well, but when it was coverage, when he had to know what he was doing, it seemed like he wasn't quite ready. So hopefully they'll switch back this week and give him some more time, or he comes up to speed this week. Frankly, I don't quite understand what they why they were doing it unless it had something to do with discipline for Dalkey on that penalty the week before. Because it looked like they could have kept the same defensive backfield they had, and then they could have gone with another of the American receivers. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Mitch Picton, but I don't know that, with going with 3 Canadians when there's only the 1 Canadian available to back them up. Duncan Busby is still injured or whatever. And now a Joe. That young man can play some football. I can't wait to see what he can do when he gets in on a regular basis. But it still left them somewhere in tight. So we'll see. Hopefully they straighten that out this week. I do believe that Coach Mace knows what he's doing on defense, but that might have been a rookie error, or not. I did see the touchdown on the 2-yard line by the Tiger Cats, and I thought, really? I mean, yeah, I get many of these players have played nothing but American ball, but if you're going to come up here, and especially if you're on special teams, you got to know the rules. And that, I'm sure he felt great. I didn't catch the player that did it, unfortunately. But I'm sure he felt great as he was doing it. Look at this play I'm making. I'm downing it before it gets in the end zone, and I'm wondering just when in his mind it went to, oh, oops. I'll just run off here quietly. Let's see. I did think, too, after 2 games and watching how it's gone with those penalties in the first half and then none in the second half for the Riders, it seems to me an easy solution. Coach Mace just needs to take whatever he's doing at halftime speech and move it to the pregame speech. He is, and I will say this, Mace is going to be a crowd favorite in Riderville, in Saskatchewan, because he gets it. And a comparison, they had Chris Jones as the head coach, 4 or 5 years ago now. Corey Mace this last week at the end of the game in his presser was talking about how much they were looking forward to getting home to the hometown fans, how much of a boost that crowd gives them, just really, really praising what the Riders fans are. Now you compare that or contrast that to Chris Jones, who when he was doing it in 2015, 2016. At one point, the reporter asked him about how much did the home field advantage with the great Rider fans, how much advantage did it give him, and his answer was basically, well, none really. It's a game. It's played on the field, not in the stands. And then I think he kind of caught that, that's not going to go over big, so he kind of backtracked a bit. It's nice to have the fans cheering and everything, it's good for you, but it's amazing how a coach like Coach Mace can have success and fill the stands, and yet someone who thinks along the lines of Chris Jones, I think Chris is basically, if you've ever done any of these personality things like True Colors or that, he's basically a command and control guy and a logic guy, but he's not a people person. And I think that explains probably why he goes for all the freak athletes, and yet they don't turn into a team that plays well together. I mean, when you think about it, he won a cup as a head coach in Edmonton, but when he's coaching GM, he hasn't won anything at all. Like I said, and I don't know if he has the staff. And I think he's a great creative defensive mind, but that's got him to a point where what was the Peter principle? You're promoted to your level of incompetence, and I think that's what we've got here now. He just can't handle both positions and doing all of that. How I got into that now in the middle of the Riders and the Hamilton game, I don't know, but it was there. Also at the post-game presser that he did, he talked about the fact that he said, I love these guys, but they sure make it harder than they need to. And my thought was, again, like I said last week, welcome to Riderville, Coach Mace. This didn't come in new with you. This isn't this year. That's been a Rider tradition as long as there's been Rough Riders. Never take the easy way. Long-time fans would know. I when you're the most comfortable with the riders, yeah, probably down by 10 at halftime. You got them right where you want them. If we're up, oh, bad luck. We'll find a way to if they are up. Sorry, unbiased here. They will find a way to blow it up, at least in the past. I kind of wish Dustin Nielsen had been calling the game because that last minute 33-second interception by them, that deserved a what is going on here? Although Dustin does it much better than me, but it was there. I also wanted to mention that the riders have seemed to have this new slogan that they're mentioning in the interviews. Trevor Harris said it a few times: "Don't flinch," and I like it. I really do. Don't flinch. Yeah, that whatever happens, stay with it. Now, with that said, there was the fumble in the game, and hopefully everybody watching this has seen the game, so that because I don't explain it a lot. But the one where C.J. Rivas went in and I think caused the fumble, but his helmet came off. He recovered it. It got turned back to the Tiger Cats because he was illegal precipitation participation. Yes. Everyone's saying, well, what could he have done differently on that? I think, it's one of those weird situations where the rule doesn't cover it and you follow the rule of the law, and that's what they did. And besides, the football gods weren't going to make it that easy for the riders in that game, so they just made it more interesting. That obviously hit them because right after that, they flinched. The Tiger Cats hit them with the flea flicker for the big yardage and then into the end zone in 2 plays. But they didn't flinch afterwards, so that's the point. Ongoing, looking good. Mm-hmm. I also enjoyed, and I'm not going to talk about the penalties because I don't know. Well, okay, I will talk about them a little bit. I do know, and I said last week, I think, it is very difficult to actually change culture. And what you're seeing is mostly players from last year taking these penalties, and it's going to take a while. You can't just tell people to be different. You have to reinforce it. You have to change practice procedures. You have to change everything you're doing to make it work. And I think that they'll get it under control. I do have faith in Coach Mace for that. But I did also really enjoy when I think it was Miles Brown I think it was one of the offsetting penalties anyway, and he came to the sideline, and all you could see was what they were doing, not what they're saying. But Coach Mace came and put his arm on him and was obviously talking to him and starting to calm him down a bit. But at the same time, he just walked him nicely over to the position group where the other defensive line was there, and especially Micah Johnson, who's been around forever and actually played with Corey Mace, so and handed them off to him. Take care of that, Micah. And I'm pretty sure that Coach Mace would have been confident it had been taken care of. Having that kind of support on the team goes a long way to building a great team. I do think, like I said, that Bo still just isn't consistent enough. I don't know if he'll get back to where he was. And I feel like people are giving him too much of leeway. Like, I've seen so many people talk about that late interception and how Tim White, that was his fault because it hit him right in the hands and he bobbled it and went up for an interception. Yes, it did. But think of the context and the way that played out. They were on their own, 25, 30-yard line with less than 40 seconds to go. They've got to march down into field goal range somehow. That means you need some chunks of play and that. And what Bo chooses on that one, obviously, or hopefully, you can't see without the all-24, as I rant on, but I expect that there was nothing downfield, so Bo went to his check down, which was Tim White coming across like that. But if you're going to do that, you've got to at least put it up where he can get it in his hands and make a few moves and make people miss and maybe get 6, 7, 8, 10 yards out of it at least. If you're going to throw that throw at all, I don't think that was the throw to throw because it's wasting time in the middle of the field. I think you just throw that one away and line up again to do it. But if you're going to throw that throw at all, it's got to be where he can make some yards at it. And Bo goes and puts it into the dirt where he's got to slide down to try and get his hands under it. And then doesn't make the catch. Stop, all you folks that are putting that on White, stop it. That's on Bo. And that's, frankly, and hopefully it'll get better, but I don't know. his decision making isn't what it used to be. Okay. Oh, and I guess the last thought is 13 is generally unlucky, but, and certainly at one point in Riders' history, it may have been very unlucky. Oh, late in 2029, or not 2099, 2009. Yeah, maybe some, I don't know. Anyway, but it appears it's turning out to be their lucky number because, I mean, they have the 13th man in the crowd that they're coming home to, and that's good. And then both these first two games, they need to get down by 13 points to get them in a place where they're ready to come back and roll over teams, or at least eke out a win, you know. So yeah, so that'll be the new one. Down 13 points, got them right where we want them. And that pretty much covers the games. I will talk about a few other things that have happened. Bombers, maybe. Football fans are tough, and especially fans that have a winning team and really, really like to win and count on winning. Yeah. I was out last week and getting some groceries, and the fellow ahead of me was about the same age as me, of an age, as they say, and wearing a Blue Bomber jacket. And when I was trying to figure out what I was going to wear for swag that day, which of the teams on the CFL I was going to represent, I thought, maybe the Riders today. So that was good. When I saw him in the lineup, it was easy for me to do a little boo Bombers, and he turned around and we joked and talked about the season and that. But this is the important part, because this was, but I should have mentioned it last week and I forgot all about it. But this was before the season started, when they just had the preseason, and frankly, when I told him, you know, I was envious of some of the success that their team had had. His answer was, "We've lost 2 Grey Cups in a row. Got to get rid of that, coach." So I don't know what you need to do to make the Winnipeg fans happy, but apparently going to the Grey Cup 4 times and winning it twice isn't quite enough. I do have to mention Roland Milligan has come to play this year. I think he had tied for the top tackles on the first week in 10, and I haven't seen the stats from this week, but they got to be close. He was all over the place. Here's another kind of peeve of mine. How come the MOP is always the quarterback or possibly a running back of the best team in the league? That doesn't necessarily equate. It's the most outstanding player. There are players in this league that have been, in the last 3 years, that have been better than Zach Collaros, better than Chad Kelly. They don't play quarterback. They play other positions. They're better at their positions than those two are, and yet they never get any consideration. And it's, you know, and when everybody's talking about it, it's all based on stats. And again, look at the play. I know no one's ever going to change that. Yeah, it's always going to be the big names that get the recognition. But I do wish there was some. I wish the awards would reflect reality a little better. Let's see. I heard I was listening to the Piffles podcast out of Regina. And I said back in the first week I did this, about a bunch of the great CFL podcasts that are out there. So if you're looking for anything about the CFL, and go back and listen to that. But what I didn't mention there was that all of the teams, I gave a list of the ones that cover the CFL in general. All of the teams have their own fan casts. You know, there's a Turf District in Edmonton. There's Piffles in Regina. There's a bunch of them. If you just Google it, you'll find some very good stuff. And it's interesting to hear sort of the local bias on things. So as I was listening through this week, Piffles, they mentioned apparently on the social medias, which I don't do, but on the social medias, there's a real debate. A lot of people are trying to say that Zach is the CFL's Tom Brady. Please. Zach's had a few good years, hasn't performed well in the Grey Cups, but still managed to win 2 of them. But he's not had the longevity of Brady. He's not anywhere near that. I don't know how you make that call. And I mean, besides that, just think about, if nothing else, it's recency bias. Because Warren Moon is not better than Zach Collaros. Huh? Damon Allen is not better than Zach Collaros. Anthony Calvillo is not better than Zach Collaros. Doug Flutie was not better than Zach Collaros. You know, come on. There's no way Kolaris is the GOAT in the CFL. Not happening. Oh. And another thing that peeves me off a little bit is the way that people sort of, again, give too much or don't give enough regard to the lineman. I mean, one of the things that you always hear is that the quarterback is the most important player, and partially because he's the only player that touches the ball in every play. Well, technically, that's not true. Technically, the center touches the ball in every play, too. And I know people go, oh, yeah, but that's technically. The quarterback's got to read the defense. He's got to make the throws. It's a much harder job. I'd like to point out that the center has to get that snap up perfect every time so the quarterback can succeed. He's got to read the defense is doing and call out protections, and he's got to snap and move at the same time so he's part of that unit. Those are not easy skills, and they're not something that your average dummy couch potato could have a prayer at doing. They do a test in the NFL when they do their combines. It's called the Wonderlic test, and it's basically an intelligence test. So over decades and decades of combines, they've now got an average of each position and where they generally are on this intelligence scale. Now, when I heard about this, it was 3, 4, 5 years back, so it may have changed slightly, but I don't think so. At that point, the most intelligent person, the most average position, the most intelligent position on the football team was not the center, but they were second most intelligent. And so that tells you how hard that position is. And you think, oh, then the most intelligent one's got to be the quarterback. No, strangely enough, it was left tackle. Left tackles overall were the most intelligent people in the league. And again, it takes some brains to figure out what defenses are doing and all of that. So don't be fooled by the size of those big men up there. They do know what they're doing. And in fact, they say in general that an overall pattern, the further you get from the ball, the lower the position's intelligence average drops. So your wide receivers, DBs, stuff like that are at the low end. The people that have to think, that have to know what they're doing, are the ones down in the trenches. Not a lot of people realize that about football, and they should. Who do you figure is the most hated fans in the CFL now? Riders had the position for a great number of years. I'm thinking that it's possible that maybe Winnipeg takes over, unless they crash and burn. We'll see. Hamilton could also be up there as well. And when I say hated fans, I mean by the rest of the league, which is generally a compliment to the fans we've got involved in this, you know. If you're the most hated fans, it's because you're a very rabid, committed fan base. I should say that, again, not to call down other podcasts and stuff, but I've got a lot of respect for the guys over at the CFC, the Canadian Football Countdown. But I got to say, last week they had a guest, somebody from America who's now becoming a CFL fan apparently, but he follows the college game. So anytime they were talking about any new players that were coming up here, he was jumping in about who would be a star up here and who would do so well at this and who would do so well at that. But what bothered me is he was doing it all from stats. And listening to him, it was obvious there were parts of the Canadian game he didn't even understand and that are fairly critical. So yeah, it's nice to hear these players are good, but if you're going to have a guest, please have one that knows Canadian football and isn't just reaming off a bunch of the facts that, you know, off of a spreadsheet somewhere. I wondered, on stuff like fantasy, people are always talking about the touchdown thieves or touchdown vampires, the ones that come in, the short yardage quarterback that after a great drive comes in and scoops the short yardage touchdown away from your starter. I'm wondering, as a thought, maybe what the CFL can do in their fantasy game next year is add a short yardage quarterback. I think it'd work. You pick out one, you pick out your main quarterback, you pick out your short yardage guy. Short yardage guy only gets credit for any scoring that's done from the 1 yard line, or possibly, you know, get some sort of credit for making a first down on anything that's 2 yards or less, fourth or third down on anything 2 or less. And yeah, if they get a first down out of that, they get points. They get a point on scoring on short yardage. That was the only thing. I think that would make it interesting. Add another sort of layer of how you looked at it. I was happy to hear, because I have a lot of respect for Glenn Suter, who's a man who knows the game well and calls it well. I was really happy to hear that basically he agrees with me on the All-24. I heard him talking this week, and he was saying about how hard it is to evaluate a game on TV. If you're not at the field or you don't have the All-24, it's tough to evaluate. See? Glenn agrees with me. So TSN, All-24, down at the bottom, picture in picture, make it happen. Let's see, I think that's about it. Other than, did we notice the nice new obsidian green? Goddess got me this as a Father's Day present. I'm still waiting to see if a jersey comes in or if I'm going to have to spring my same ardor and shekels for it. But pretty cool, I'm saying. I like it. I guess that's just about everything that I've got right now. So we're done for another week. Please do the things you're doing that help promote this and get it out there. We're seeing more people coming in, and it's all got to be from you folks. So please keep it up. Rate, review, subscribe, sacrifice to the great god Corfu. Whatever you've been doing, just keep doing it. Okay, thanks much. It's been a good week. Until next week, get the hell off my lawn.